Hello everyone, I bring to you another unusual match. The other day I recorded a Grit versus Colin game between two top players. Well, if you haven't watched that one, I strongly recommend that you watch that one because that one was wild. And so here today we have another game of two top players, but now it's Grit against a tier 1 CO, which is Von Bolt. So Grit is no longer fighting against crazy tier 0 CO Colin or Camber or whatever, just a tier 1. Like imagine if this was a global league match, or tournament where it's tier 1, and so one player goes for Von Bolt or Hawk or Sasha, one of those, and then the other one chooses to go for Grit. So here, that's what they were actually testing. It was an actual test of Grit versus tier 1 CO. Now, the result of it is not really gonna prove anything because, for a real test experiment, you need to do multiple tries to prove a point. That's like the scientific method or whatever, but doesn't matter. Anyways, we have Grit versus Von Bolt. Very interesting matchup because if there's one CO that I think could deal pretty well against Grit, it is going to be Von Bolt. The reason being because of that super from Von Bolt that it hits and it stuns the opponent's army and stuns them, and Grit loves to death ball and just have everything packed together, and if like to start, you're gonna get deterred as Grit to bunch up and you're gonna be all spread out, so it's gonna be easier to pick off Grit's units or like start a fight and just keep it away from stalling and just keep it brawly. And if they do decide to death ball, then you hit them with that whatever the thing is called, the lightning spark thunder thing that falls from Von Bolt and kind of stuns your army, and then you can just plunge in and attack that death ball or anything surrounding, and then next turn you attack the death ball or whatever you want. You have a lot of options. Definitely Von Bolt's super is a force to be reckoned with, should not be forgotten, so it is a very tricky thing. So that's enough of the matchup for now. Let's talk about the players a little bit. We have Izanagi, who is, definitely a Grit enjoyer. He has been trying to really go with Grit as many times as he can. He plays a little bit out of the ordinary. According to him, he learned to play the game by himself, not really listening to any guides or something like that. So you can definitely tell from his playstyle that he plays a little bit differently than most top players. And he definitely likes to stall and likes to go for a lot of indirects. So he likes to play with Grit. Like whenever he can, whenever Grit is available, he'll play Grit. And if not, he'll play with like Sturm. I'm not sure if Eagle, but yeah, he likes stally seals, very indirect heavy seals. And then on the other hand, we have Days of Plague. Days of Plague is another top player. He comes from Days of Ruin, loves his mechs, and I think also plays a slightly out of the ordinary than other players. Goes for some interesting fights sometimes, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun one for sure. And then the map is called A Hope Forlorn. This map is a great map. I've covered it before. It is a very traditional kind of setup, your 2 base versus 1 base kind of setup. That 1 base also has an airport. It's a pretty strong airport, definitely not contestable at all because it's surrounded by mountains, so you can never take it out. It's a pretty high income map, pretty large map as well. And so the main point is going to be like these pivot points right here, and this one, the 2 base is just gonna move forward, try to corner in the 1 base, and try to force builds from the 1 base to defend, because you can always threaten from this position to either go over here and overcome the comm tower and these 2 cities, maybe this one. You can try to take off over this area, but if they overinvest in the 1 base, then you can just shift to the other side towards the middle and go for these triple cities, maybe even push deeper for this city, maybe this double city, maybe even go for a little pincer strike over here on the opponent's pivot and try to join your 2 base army with your 1 base and try to crush their strong side and just overwhelm and take over this stuff. And yeah, that's kind of how it generally goes. So let's get right into the match. I think that was a really quick intro. I Actually, not so much. It was actually 5 minutes. But yeah, here we go. So we have Izanagi in Blue Moon. I think he actually had another color. I changed them around. Apparently, a lot of you guys like when the colors match the CO's colors. In this case, I changed Days of Plague. Instead of, he was Purple Lightning, changed it to Black Hole, but Black Hole faces the other way, and changed it to Gray Sky, which is the most similar thing to Black Hole, just so they're facing each other. And so expect a lot of stalliness from Izanagi as Grid, as we see Days of Plague opening with a Recon, which is definitely your most aggressive kind of opening on this map. From the 2 base, it's going to try to put some pressure on the 1 base. If they make a tank, then you can just go towards the middle. But yeah, expect Grid to try to stall it out, like really be very content with being under in income, as long as he can solidify a position and just amass units and artillery and rockets and missiles and whatnot, just so that the game can stall enough to reach a critical mass of indirects that then he can start pushing slowly and take over the map. Then maybe make some Neo, some Mega Tanks, stuff like that, to make some really solid walls. And we see Izanagi very greedily open with an artillery, even though there's a Recon right here, which is going to put some pressure here. Like, that means that he will no longer have the funds to make a tank. So he will be able to make a tank next turn, although he makes an artillery. Okay. Just no tanks, just artillery. So really trying to push that grid mindset by Izanagi, which is definitely very respectable. I guess that is part of the test. But yeah, the Recon is definitely going to go towards the 1 base since there is no tank. But this artillery will be able, because of that extra range, it can reach over here and will be able to cover this guy capturing this city. The only thing is that Recon will do 2, 4, 6, 8. So it will also be able to hit that artillery, unless this infantry comes over here and blocks this tile. That's the only thing that I can think of right now. Unless, I don't know, you make a tank, but you have AK, so you're gonna have to base skip. I think that's probably the way to go. So just capture this, capture that, put the artillery, block this tile with this infantry, which you are slowing yourself from this capture, or even the airport capture as well. So I think a tank over here would be much nicer to deter this Recon. And this will be going for another Recon, like really doubling down. And yeah, he's going to go for that. So now that Recon cannot reach. And this artillery, just moving forward, 245, 245. Okay, this is maximum movement. So we'll see if it maybe wants to lock down the comm tower. We shall see. We shall see what this artillery is going to do. But I'm going to bet that this Recon is going to try to go towards the middle to try to pressure this. Again, keeping places contested is what Days of Plague is going to be wanting to do. Not let Izanagi get comfortable. Another... Oh my God. So many Recons. If there's something that Grid hates, it is Recons. Doesn't matter if it's fog or if it's standard or whatever. He does not enjoy those Recons because they deal a pretty good amount of damage to those artillery. They have great movement. This is a pretty good Recon map with these long connected roads. And it's like the artillery, I think, deal very similar damage to a Recon than to a tank. The fact that Recons can move further, it makes them more threatening to those artilleries. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to just get a lot of Recons out to threaten, outnumber those artillery as well, and try to force a Grid into making some tanks, which are so bad. The Grid's tanks are so bad, and in this matchup, Grid has 20% less firepower on direct units, vehicles, so tanks. While Von Bolt has +10, so attack and defense. So just to give you an idea, let's look at how that engagement would go. Say like a Von Bolt tank, and this is no comm towers. Let's swap it around, right? If Grid decides to attack with a tank against a Von Bolt tank, that's gonna probably do 3 damage on our planes. So that's gonna leave the Von Bolt tank at 7. And that Von Bolt 7 is going to strike back at either 3 or 4 damage. So it's going to be a 7 and then counterattack with 7 or 6. So horrible, completely horrible trade for Grit. So Grit will definitely not want to use tanks to counter Von Bolt's tanks. It is mostly to try to counter these recons. It is also much better to have tanks. Can't even speak today. Countering recons because they have much more flexibility. These artillery, they can only shoot 4 tiles away, right? So it's more of a very defensive approach to the recons, because you'll be trying to cover like your units from these 4 tiles away, but your tank can cover 6 tiles away. So much better. So this artillery is actually just gonna sit on this city. I think it's just to be away of range from this recon. I'm pretty sure that Izanagi would have loved to lock down this comp tower, but that was just not possible. This recon was just out zoning that. We got the double recon here. I forgot to mention, but that recon had like sit on this comp tower to delay the capture by a turn. Now Izanagi kind of did this little wall thing here with infantry and artillery to kind of shoo away the recon. It is a lot of recons though, so this is going to force Izanagi probably to make a tank or maybe another artillery. Okay, pulling back the artillery from this side, maybe trying to lock down the middle now. Okay, puts the artillery behind, just makes an infantry and double artillery on the strong side. Okay, wow. Neither of these recons can reach that artillery, so and I think this is an interesting one because this artillery is also covering this one tile right here. So if Days of Plague decides to like attack, say like maybe from here, that can get shot at, but this recon can still shoot from here, and this one could come and shoot from the forest, so only one artillery could shoot at them. But yeah, just trying to be flexible, I guess, by Izanagi, trying to reach to that point of just trying to capture the stuff and get to those numbers where then he'll be fine. It's gonna be tricky. He has to kind of weather the storm, right, of this aggression. And here goes Days of Plague, hitting from that forest and hitting from the road. So only one of them will be able to get shot at, and I think this is fine. By Days of Plague, definitely want to keep that pressure going. Kills off an infantry. There's another recon here, so this is actually really good for Days of Plague, because sure, you can shoot at one, probably even take it out. And then, well, you have to block it off, because then if not, these 2 recons are gonna try to shoot at your artillery. So you're gonna block, but it's just like, it's gonna be really hard. So you're gonna have to make a tank, maybe even have to pull back, because if not, this artillery is gonna get taken out. After it gets taken out, then your other infantry are gonna die. So a very dire position here from Izanagi for sure. This is definitely not the ideal map for Grit for sure, because it's so open, right? And there's this big dynamic of one side or the other. You're definitely forced to make tanks in this map. It is pretty high income as well. Usually Grit doesn't like that, so it's gonna be tricky. An interesting map to put to the test. If it were maybe a much smaller map, lower income, and just like a 3 base map, for example, it would be much better for Grit. So we'll see. Actually, Izanagi is going to position like this, just to block over here, leaves this tile open because this tank could reach. Has this other recon kind of protecting, kind of locking down the city as well, but Plague is still going to get a shot out there. I'm sure he would have wanted to like try to go for that city, maybe even go for this one. And this recon is going to get a shot at that infantry, trying to interrupt. He will lose that recon for sure. But Days of Plague has gotten the airport already, while Izanagi has been very delayed because of all this recon pressure. Remember that guy, that infantry that had to like move away to just block this one tile is already slowing the airport down. And it is really important to have that airport on this map. It really helps you to push back this initial pressure from the 2 base. Because then they're forced to make anti-airs, and they take a really long time while this airport is super fast. So there's a nice time window there for with the airport that Izanagi is just not being able to get because of this early pressure. You see how he's pressured or forced to make an anti-air now on this side because this airport is ready to go, and you have to make it before they make a copter. or else you won't be able to attack in this area. You'll be pushed back a little bit by those copters. If there's something that Grit doesn't like, is copters, because there you go. Because then he has to build anti-airs, and he would much rather just build artillery. And so Days of Plague trying to keep keeping the game going on all fronts, right? We got the middle, a little bit of pressure, we got this infantry capping, some more infantry, we got a recon and a tank. Like this one is pointing at this artillery, so like, okay, now are you gonna block it? What are you gonna do? I got another recon over here, which this one has so much movement, right? There's so many roads and cities and shoals. Really great for that recon movement. So again, more blocking that we'll have to do. And you know that if, like, sure, you can leave your artilleries kind of covering each other, but it's like if you're in Days of Plague's shoes, like you might as well just send that recon to shoot at one, send the tank to shoot at the other end. Sure, you might lose one of them because then there's one or two that can still shoot, but you're dwindling down those forces from Grit and not letting him set up a position, and just like kind of dwindling those numbers down, and then you're just gonna keep it where you're more comfortable and away from where Grit is more comfortable. So I'm gonna take out that recon. Tank gonna come in and shoot at that recon, just like 6 damage only. Just a great tank against the Von Paul recon. Even with a com tower too. Gonna get an interrupt here. This is just Von Paul stats working for you. But yeah, gonna have to cover this tile from this artillery. Gonna have this one in position to lock this city to prevent Von Paul from getting it. It's not able to position to lock this one though, so I think Days of Plague might get it. He does have this infantry in position to interrupt, and sits a little here. You know, it's like has all these tiny little forces, right? This one artillery defended by a few. This one artillery with this other blocking this nice tile. This one by this one. This one with this one. Like in this map, he's kind of forced to do that. Like he has to have an artillery everywhere to defend all the positions, but then have a few units to defend the artillery. It's like so. How do you say? Like he needs more unit count, right? You can definitely tell that he's so low on unit count so far. Like, you know, he needs to amass more, bring more units, and then when he starts having 2 units per artillery, 3 units, or he can start having like 3 artilleries together. That's where Grit is gonna be more comfortable. So, and Days of Plague is gonna try to keep it like this, just like really awkward for Grit, and just try to keep fighting. This tank could go and shoot here, but it's gonna die. There's certain trades that you don't want to go against Grit like that. Those are definitely kind of baits. Like sometimes you will kind of take out half an artillery from Grit and then lose a tank just to keep the tempo going. But it really depends. In this scenario, it wouldn't really work. You kind of want to have an attack where you can just destroy maybe half of the artilleries of some sort and then lose half of yours, and that's fine. As long as you keep it even, it'll be favorable for you. But Grit will love to have those little baits where it's like, oh, I need to send the tank and hit that artillery, it's right there, and then you use that tank, and then you do it again and again and again and again, and then it's like you're dealing half at vehicle damage and losing one every turn that goes by, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, why does Grit have so many artillery? Why do I don't have enough tanks? Well, that's why. And that's definitely something that a lot of people struggle with when Grit is available, say in like Fog of War and High Funds where he is available, because he is not available in Standard because he is really, really strong. So, or at least that's what we think, right? At least this is what this test is supposed to prove, whether he is strong or not. So, Izanagi actually trying to go for this capture for this one, just really trying to set up shop and trying to get more comfortable. You can start to see now that position of the triple artillery together, another 3 together. So now that those little tiny armies of Grit are starting to bunch up together, and it is starting to become much more of a threat, much more harder to deal with. So it is getting slightly more in favor of Grit. So Days of Plague has to tread carefully, but also know where to pressure. He can't just like pounce everywhere and then just get shot, like just get everything destroyed. he needs to know where to pressure, where to force grid, like where is he most uncomfortable, and try to take it from there. Days of Plague does have the income advantage at 23 versus 19. That's because he has the two of these cities right here, and then he's denied Izanagi from this one as well as this one. Now Izanagi is gonna get this one because Days of Plague decided not to interrupt it. Just gonna bring all these artillery together. Doesn't really want to go for any of these. He's gonna protect these two cities and like just kind of giving this one up to Days of Plague. This one is just full of artillery, but those copters are coming in, so they're gonna be forcing a bit of an awkward position to grid. Like he is liking to kind of connect these artilleries with these, using those mountains are really strong, so they so they can kind of protect each other. But these copters are going to be splitting up those forces really, because they can make use of these mountains, not only because of the movement, but just attacking from there. And so you can also see that Izanagi is doing like a really good job at using the mountains to protect, so you can put a layer over here, but just leave the artillery unprotected behind here because there's no vehicles that got hit. But now the copters are going to stop that, right? So it's going to make it more uncomfortable. So now we have two anti-airs. This artillery is going to stay here, just out of range of a tank. And this was on a city, so that's really awkward. Like it's like, okay, if the artillery was on a shoal, for example, then you can attack it and it will deal a ton of damage. Like for example, let's say a tank or say a copter against an artillery on a road. Look at that, it's gonna leave it at 2 HP, so that's pretty much a gone artillery. But if it's on a city, you know, it will leave it at 5, for example, and then it heals up to 7, and that's still a really strong artillery. So it's going to force you to send 2 vehicles if you want to actually take out that artillery. So Days of Plague is not going to let that city capture go through. He's going to interrupt it there, leave it at 2, and so only like he's going to need 2 more turns, or yeah, he's going to need 2 turns to finish that capture now. He's gonna put a tank on the city because there's no artillery pointing at it, just to prevent this infantry from wanting to go capture it. Just amassing a lot of recon, tanks, copters. Even has an anti-air in case that Izanagi wanted to make a copter. It doesn't look like Izanagi wants to for now, but and actually interesting. Days of Plague makes a stealth, and this map has really great stealths because. Of course, income is pretty high, so you can definitely afford it. But the airports are so far away from each other, right? And so, yeah, you have a ton of anti-air to like stop all of these copters. But then the stealth is going to be able to do a lot of damage in this area and just really quickly. Like it moves out, hides, and then it's going to be attacking next turn over here. And so you can definitely make a fighter. But it's going to take a while. It's going to take like 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns, 3 or 4 turns just to get here to stop that stealth from doing any damage. It's going to be tricky to track where the stealth is as well. It's also going to force Grid into making a fighter that he doesn't want to be making a fighter. He wants to keep making more artillery. More artillery, anti-air, infantry. That's all he really needs. That's something against Grid that's really tricky, that you can't really tech up. Like you can't make medium tanks, neo tanks, mega tanks, because he can shred through them with his artillery like super easily. And like medium tanks are probably the worst thing that you can do against Grid because they have 5 movement against this. Like how are you going to reach that with a power they can snipe that medium tank? So really hard. Maybe neo tanks are a bit better. They also have that ability, that option, like they can break through a lot of units, so that helps a lot to try to break Grid's position. Mega tanks are probably the worst because they're so slow and they can get taken out by maybe, I don't know, 4 artillery by Grid. So neo tanks are probably your best bet. And then that's something that you can do as Grid, just make mega tanks, for example. Those are really great for Grid because how are you going to deal with those if you're not taking up, for example? So here comes the stealth. It is stealthed. And Days of Plague is going to start that capture. This artillery is though locking that down. And actually, I hadn't seen, but Days of Plague made an artillery. So he's gonna sit there, just block around. He's gonna get a shot out on that infantry, just trying to injure it. There isn't that many infantry over here for Izanagi. It looks like his main focus right now is over here, where he has a lot of infantry, a lot of artillery, even 2 anti-airs. So this is where he's going to be the strongest. And it looks like this is going to give up that city in the middle. Yeah, okay, that city is for Grid. So that's going to bring him up to 21k. So what do you think? Is this a good position for Grid? I think it kind of is, but it depends where. I think this is a really solid position by Grid. Days of Plague is trying to be very wary. Can't really attack into this. Or I think he's maybe trying to go down here to try to attack over here. But this fighter is going to try to go and counter this stealth. I wonder, actually, wait, this is a good question. Let's see. How much does a Grid fighter do to a Von Bolt stealth? Okay. Really good. Okay. So even though Grid has terrible direct units, it will still deal with that stealth. But let's see if it's swapped around. That stealth could deal 5 to 6. Wow. Okay. So he needs to make sure that the fighter gets the first strike. So that's gonna be tricky. So it definitely counters the stealth, but he needs to get the first strike. And it looks like he's seeing some kind of breakthrough here. Whoa. Okay, he just put the tank in front. He's gonna take that out and start the capture and bring all these artillery together. So he's gonna make a long wall here. So he's probably doing this so that this anti-air can't reach this fighter. Okay, makes a T-copter even. Very, very interesting, right? This is some Izanagi plays right here. Okay, so Days of Plague is gonna interrupt here. I feel almost as if Izanagi is getting a little bit too greedy. Like this is a bit overextended of a position. I think maybe he could kind of hold back and be happy with having these 2 cities. There's no need to kind of overextend like this and try to join the armies. But we'll see. Maybe he's looking to try to crush this army and then just take these over. I don't know. We'll see. Stealth is gonna go and get a shot on that infantry. Nothing that Grid can do. Even gets a shot from that copter. Boom, boom. So yeah, it's looking really, really good over here for Days of Plague. And actually, oh yeah, okay. So the anti-air couldn't reach the fighter from the bottom, but could reach from the top. So that's why all these tanks. And it looks like there wasn't, because you only have a copter and a tank, so you have 1 of each. So you have 2 that could deal with these tanks, so there's no way to break through. So this fighter was safe. But now Grid has the power ready, so Grid could use that power, and Days of Plague has to be careful as we see him pull back. Look, has to be more than +1 range from those artillery. You can see how boom, it's all zoned out, right? Well, I guess those can get shot at by 1 artillery, but the others can't really get any shots out. So I don't think it's a good idea to use the power by Izanagi right now. You can definitely take these out, just take out these 4, and actually Days of Plague attacked this infantry, which was the only healthy one to go for this capture, so that was smart. But yeah, an awkward position here by Grid. I'm not sure if you want to loop around this army, but we shall see. Fighter's just gonna straight right up to the top to try to cover this whole ground against the stealth. He does know where it is because he got that shot out. And yeah, he's not gonna use the power. It looks like, oof, those anti-airs can't even take out a Von Bolt copter. But yeah, he's not gonna use the power. He's gonna take these out, boom, boom, boom. Just take them all out because they're completely undefended. Gonna take that one out as well. Okay, so it looks like the main army is not actually going to join up with a 1 base army. It's just gonna stay here in the middle, really trying to keep Days of Plague's army split, so not letting like all of this avalanche towards one side or something. So now that the fighter is here, I think it's a bit more stabilized for Grid. If we look at unit count, it's dead even. Days of Plague in unit value is slightly better for Grid, but that charge is also going up. There's that income difference by Plague, so I think it's still anyone's game at this point. So we shall see what happens. As Days of Plague makes an APC because, you know, the stealth is already at 32 fuel, so that's pretty crazy. It's definitely going to need, you know, as you move, plus the 8 that it uses up per turn when it's hidden, it uses up like, I don't know, 14 per turn. So you definitely need to refuel it in 2 turns or so. And Days of Plague, just trying to, inch to the side, just get a position where he can still threaten Grid's artillery. So like, if you can break through, for example, this hunter can take out an infantry, and then Recon can attack an artillery, stuff like that. Just have everything in range to attack, but out of range of a power from this artillery. Only infantry are in range of a power, so that's fine. Gonna keep attacking here, take out that guy, and Stealth is gonna have to pull back just away from that fighter. But Grid does not know where that Stealth is. So, what a position right now, no? Very, very tense. You definitely want to go for the city as Grid, and I think that might be actually not very guaranteed. You can definitely sack a copter. Well, it wouldn't be that much of a sack because then you have to send an anti-air and then you can take it out, but we'll see. I think, yeah, you definitely go for that city. He can't reach this one just yet. Oh, I was actually thinking, oh, okay, so he's blocking here, and then this infantry in the teacup is gonna go for this city most likely. There you go, boom. Oh, we even have 2, so we have 2 guys over here. Gonna even send an anti-air to take that out. Ooh, he uses the power. So took out this guy and then covers it up with these artillery, just covering this whole position really from any counter attacks from over here. And use a snipe attack. Is it to attack that artillery? Because all of these can only shoot at infantry. Look at that. Ooh, was that a misclick? That has to be a misclick. I don't think that you want to use a power here. Okay, you take out 1 recon, take out an infantry, take out that artillery. You attack over here, so you kind of wipe out these infantry and artillery setup. But then you pull back, and now that charge from Days of Plague is almost there. It's 1.5 stars left of charge, and makes a Neo tank. Okay, so I think Von Bolt's Stealth is gonna deal with that Neo tank pretty easily. But yeah, this is Izanagi. Grid definitely likes to have some tech ups. Some medium tanks I think would also be pretty good. I'm not sure if you need a Neo tank. I think medium tank is fine. It's cheaper and still provides that nice wall for Grid, and makes it forces you as the non-Grid to, I don't know, like how do you usually deal with medium tanks? With artillery, your own medium tanks, Neo tanks, stuff like that. And Grid really likes to force that issue, because usually if not, you just make tanks, recons, copters, right? Like really, really light vehicles. So yeah, that's definitely something that Grid wants to do. So these are just some classic Grid plays. And if there's someone that knows how to play Grid, it is Izanagi. And Days of Plague, now that power is used up, he does have like good enough amount of charge that he could use another power. Maybe he had the full bar, and that's why he used the power. But yeah, he's kind of going to plunge in and take out this 1 artillery. Gonna take that out. Even gonna attack this tank. This Stealth is almost out of fuel, and it will get first struck, I think. And there's no way that Plague can block it off. But you know what's happening. Look at that charge go up. So he takes another infantry out and attacks over here, and now has the super ready and Ex Machina, and it falls right here. So very smart by Plague. Yes, this fighter was covering, but now it is hit and it is stunned, so the Stealth got away with a free shot. He also shot this Neo tank. This might have been actually on purpose by Izanagi. I didn't realize, but you can see how scattered the position is. Look at these artillery, they're all like 3 tiles away from each other, just trying to reduce the unit value, and then has these 2 together. Like had the fighter and built the Neo tank, so it would like land over here. Maybe he was fine with giving a free shot from the Stealth, as long as the missile doesn't land on the main force, like on all the artilleries. So was it worth it for Von Bolt? Was it not? I think it is as good as you can get. I think maybe. I think sometimes you want to hold that super as Von Bolt to force, for example, in this case, Izanagi as Grid, to always stay in these awkward positions. I think that can be really, really strong, because now that it's used, now Izanagi can go back to balling up, just make that death ball. So Izanagi is gonna go for this capture over here, and now these artilleries are gonna start shooting away. I don't think he can get the power, at least before all the artilleries get shots out, so it wouldn't be worth to use it. But he will be able to use it next turn. Anti-air get some shots out. This tank cannot reach. This stealth can reach. It's almost out of fuel, so it will reach next turn to refuel. Wow, actually uses the power to. I mean, it's for these, right? But maybe it's for the extra firepower. It's probably for the extra firepower. Okay, this one reaches that recon. Not sure that it's worth the extra range, but these maybe get that extra firepower to take those out. And I'm gonna take that out. And gonna take that copter out, which was. I can bet you that that copter would not have died if it wasn't for the power. Oh wow! It was like a roll. It probably was chipped, so it was more of a guarantee. But without a power, it's just because of Von Bolt's stats, because he has the super up and ready. It just used whatever, doesn't matter. But yeah, got a kill on that copter. So cleaned up a few of the vehicles. That unit value and that unit count is looking pretty nice for Grit, even after this whole exchange of powers. So really interesting, right? Even gonna get a flip on the city. Although Plague does have 28 to 19k income disadvantage, but this is just classic Grit. Like, I swear, like you're so ahead in income against Grit, but you're still behind on unit value. But this is still, it's okay. Like you still want to keep that income advantage, although you're gonna be behind on unit value. It is very normal against Grit because he just gets just insane value, right? Because those artilleries are so cheap and they deal so much damage. It is absolutely insane. So it's still a good thing. The more income you have, you can get into more fights, get more charge, and then make use of those powers. I'm not sure if using the super was that beneficial to Plague. It was okay, I think, but maybe holding it to force Grit into an awkward position would be a bit better. So we'll see. We'll see if maybe the next power will be used that way or not, as he has to kind of pull back and can't engage anymore. Only got one single shot over here with his infantry. So one city is going to fall for Plague now. So now it's 20 to 27k. And this kind of income is fine for Grit, right? Like his army is just artillery, anti-air, infantry. Like he doesn't really need more. He has a fighter that is injured. Actually, I don't think this fighter can win the fight against the stealth now, as it's at 7. But at least it kind of neutralizes it, right? It leaves it at 5 or 6. You can't really repair this fighter. You have to send it back to the airport, but you don't want to do that. So I think this is fine. But yeah, like having 20k, 21k, or whatever is super fine by Grit. He just wants, his army is so cheap to make, so he just wants to make those artilleries, anti-airs, eventually make a few tank or like a few medium tanks are really good. A mega tank are insane with Grit. And so there we go, double artillery, anti-air, like this is classic Grit things. And he did a little cap and join here for the city, so he really wants to flip that. Now he has like 2 solid armies. You got this one over here and you got this one over here. This one is a little bit disconnected because you got these guys split by the mountain, so maybe Plague could decide to attack over here or maybe attack over here. But then you have this other big army over here, and he's trying to go for this city and this city. Like I think Plague has done as much as he can, maybe like city wise. He could definitely try to go for this or this, but it is very tricky because this is probably the ideal spot where Izanagi wants to be at as Grit, just like Death Ball around the middle. But I think what Plague wants to do, which is what has been trying to do, just keep the attack on one side, attack on the other, just keep Grit having to constantly front switch and shift the artillery from one side to the other because they're not great at that, right? They can't move and shoot. So that's what you gotta do against Grit. Also sending the stealth towards the middle, as it's not seen by Grit. He doesn't know where the stealth is. He knows it went back to refuel, but now this turn he has no clue where it is. Gonna somewhat lock that city with his 3 HP artillery. Doesn't really have anything else next turn to interrupt it, like only this tank and maybe a copter. So we'll see if if Izanagi is gonna get away with. Ooh, okay. Actually sends the 8 HP infantry there, and goes for double capture, very greedy, and just moves forward to try to force the issue here, like really solidify these captures. Either like you send your army to interrupt these captures, or I'm getting it. So very tricky. So I think he is also getting in position to defend this. He can't really defend from over here, can he? I guess, yeah, this anti-air is also protecting. Oh, no, never mind. So I think these copters could attack this infantry, no problem. So there's no anti-air over here covering these tiles over here. Like, yeah, this one, but it's a bit sketchy. We got 3 copters here from play. I think he might as well just send a copter and an infantry. I think we just want an infantry also, because that's 6, right? So you need to drop it down to 5 or less. So that's fine. There you go. Boom. Drops it down to 4. Stealth is actually gonna get a shot on that Neo tank on the city. Wow, and deals a pretty good amount of damage actually. Yeah, that's pretty nice. It's not like a bomber. A bomber would have shredded that down to like, I don't know, 3 or 2 or something, especially being von Bolt. But just dealt a little bit of damage there. It is gonna get shot by that fighter, but there's also that aspect of the charge, right? Remember, this exchange fighter and stealth is gonna definitely load up that charge for Plague, and he might be looking to get to that point again and just have that Ex Machina ready and force Grid into some awkward position. So we'll have to see. And it's crazy because he actually pulls back, decides not to attack over here. His forces are not that scary. You have like 1 anti-air. There were 2, I guess now 1 copter because this one was brand new, 1 tank. So there wasn't that many vehicles. These kind of front shifted down. So he could have just like plunged in and kind of first struck stuff, but because of this like horizontal line, he couldn't really take out some of these vehicles, and didn't really have the numbers as well, no? So really solid here by Izanagi, and got rewarded from this. Now the income is down to 22 to 25. Crazy. And here goes the fighter. It's gonna get a 5-4 because it was at 7. So that stealth is gonna live, and he's gonna somewhat trap that. He can definitely take it. He can take out the fighter with the stealth, I'm pretty sure. And take out that infantry. Gonna continue capping, or does he pull back? Okay, he's just gonna pull back. It seems like not gonna continue that capture. Just solidify here. You do have these, like this infantry looking at that com tower. You got these other 2 guys looking at this city. You got these copters also pointing at that airport in case he makes a copter if he wants. But Izanagi hasn't made a single copter. He's only made a fighter just to counter that stealth. And he's gonna make infantry, anti-air. He ran out of funds. Okay, so it's probably because of all the repairs that he's been doing. Right, the Neo tank repaired, and there was a few others as well. So he was really low on that income. So we're down to 22 to 25, so it's looking pretty nice for Grid in that sense. This Plague is gonna actually go and block the airport with a copter. So this is some, wow, this is actually really strong, because I'm gonna ask you, how do you deal with this copter? And why would you want to deal with this copter? Well, why do you need the airport as Grid? Well, because von Bolt is gonna be able to make stealths non-stop. Like if you don't have an airport, you can't deal with those stealths. So this is gonna be huge for Plague, and definitely something that I don't think Izanagi saw until just now. He was like, oh no, I didn't realize that copter could sit on the airport. Now how am I gonna deal with these stealths? It is going to be a slow process to get those stealths out, but still. This medium tank is a strange buy, but I think the reason behind it is to have something that can KO tanks, I think. So let's see. Does a medium tank KO a tank? It does. Okay, on a road it does KO the tank because it's von Bolt. Same thing if it's an anti-air. So that's gonna help Plague push back this position and try to, if not, break through. So you can use anti-airs to take out the infantry, then medium tank takes out the tank, or or an artillery as well, for sure, takes it out. But like for example, one of the tanks will not take out the artillery, right? So it leaves it at 1. So it makes it tricky. But with a medium tank, he can boom, take out 1 and then attack another one. It grants him some tactical opportunities. This copter is gonna be right in range of this anti-air. I wonder if Izanagi is gonna send it in. I probably wouldn't. It's good to keep those anti-air numbers. I don't usually like just sacrificing an anti-air like that. It's just gonna die to these 2 tanks. And you can see that Plague has not stopped making copters or air units every single turn, just pumping out that unit count and that air unit count, because then you're forcing Izanagi Grid to make anti-airs instead of artillery. So you're forcing Grid to try to be more of a varied composition instead of just straight up artillery, infantry, artillery, infantry, artillery, infantry, which is really hard to deal with. And so the only way to deal with this copter on that airport is by making missiles. You always know. I'm actually going to be a good match whenever you see a missiles with a legitimate reason that you have to make a missile. This is so funny. But because of that extra range, actually, that missile is pretty useful here, because in just 1 turn, it can move here to this road and it will be locking down this airport so he can make fighters. And there's no way that Plague can deal with fighters coming out. Remember, these are mountains. Anti-airs cannot deal with him. But if it wasn't for that +1 range, he would not be able to reach. He would have to need 2 turns to then sit on this forest, for example, and then reach that. So something that Grid will be able to have here. Stealth is just going to be trapped here. It looks like, even covering these tiles with anti-air so these copters don't go in and attack. So it's just going to, this is probably going to kill this infantry or something. But yeah, has to pull back the copter. Very, very interesting here. And just too many forces here. He could still keep the copter for 1 more turn, but it looks like he is not going to want to attack over here anymore. There's way too many artilleries and units just covering. It becomes really tricky attacking that one base in this map. This is kind of like what Plague is doing is exactly what you want to be doing on this map as the more aggressive CO, just like forcing pressure on the one base, so they force a lot of builds, like literally building a missiles for the sole purpose of freeing up the airport. And then once they start doing that, they overinvest, and boom, they just shift back towards the middle. And there's definitely stuff that he can go for in the middle. There's these 2 cities, and going for the middle will also pressure this army from Grid, right? Because this army can never join the middle, ever. Your 1 base army will never go through here towards the middle, ever. It just never leaves this corridor. And so this pressure going up is going to force this into being like, oh, okay, do I keep pressuring the 1 base, or do I actually swing back towards the middle? And that frees up the 1 base. So it's like you create that push and pull dynamic that is so interesting in this map. Now that 1 base from Izanagi is going to start to push out, and he's probably happy that he has this, but as this army pulls back towards the middle, this has to pull out and try to pressure more stuff, so then more stuff is sent down. It literally is just a push and pull dynamic on this map. It's so much fun. And we see our first Grid rocket. This T-copter also getting double boosting here, I think. Fighter, a 1 HP is gonna somewhat block this stealth. It is killable by an anti-air, but that stealth is running out of shots. It was funny that we almost saw a scenario where Days of Play could have started pumping out stealths, but Grid was able to make a missiles there and prevent that from happening. So yeah, it's tricky. Look at those unit values. Like we very rarely see these kind of unit values on this map. This Plague makes another stealth, like over 200k. Plague does have 280 though against 240 against Grid, but again, Grid doesn't really care that much about that unit value difference. He gets insane value from his really cheap artillery. So although he has 200,000, he can deal so much damage. Like 1 artillery will take out a tank in 1 turn, or an anti-air. 2 of them will take out a medium tank. It's like they are so cheap, yet they can deal more damage than what their cost. Missile is actually gonna push out, and now it's a pretty nice missile, right? It's also covering towards the middle, so pretty interesting. It's covered by these mountains, so you can't really attack it with any ground unit. It is out of range of any tank possibly reaching there. It would only be reachable by copters. Gonna make a fighter now to respond to this new stealth made by Days of Plague, but it looks like Izanagi is getting very comfortable in this position. I don't think there is a day limit on this match because it was just a casual match. It's not a tournament match. It simulates what it would be on Global League because there is no day limit in Global League. You could play for infinite amount of days on the Global League, and he makes another stealth. So he's gonna be trying to really pressure Izanagi to make fighter all the time. At a certain point, I think it should be fine for Izanagi to have a bunch of fighters then deterring the stealth. But definitely a very tricky scenario right now. Like who is more advantaged right now? Like would you be in Days of Plague's shoes right now? Would you be in Izanagi's shoes? Like do you prefer being Volbor right here? He absolutely death balls all the armor here. Has nothing left down here. Just sent one infantry to attack this guy to just injure it. Gonna give up this property as well. It's all about the strategical approach right now, forcing builds from Grid with a triple base skip stealth, but just like knowing and like forcing the issue and knowing where to attack on the map, right? And now that infantry is going to go down. Gonna go for this other city, which will only be interruptible by a copter. Oof, this is crazy. Absolutely wild match, right? This is insane. When was the last time that you saw this kind of match? And actually deletes this 5 HP infantry, makes another fighter. It's because we've reached the unit limit. I didn't even realize, but yeah, we're down to the unit limit of 50. And that's also, that's also fine for the triple base skip because at this point, like, you don't need to maximize unit production because you're down to the unit limit now. But this is looking like the ideal scenario for Grid, right? Like, unit limit, such a high amount of unit value, but like the amount of indirects, right? Look at all these infantry. You got these artillery locking down these two cities with a power even locking down this one. You got artilleries all around the map. We got our rockets here, many artillery. This one's locking down the middle property. You got a neo tank here, which is even out of range of this medium tank, so it's gonna be hard to deal with. You can definitely send copters, but you got even a missiles protecting the new tank from the copters. You got fighters coming in to deal with these stealths. This one can definitely get a shot out on these infantry, but next turn it will be covered by a fighter. Just having to make this long line on the map, a bit awkward for Izanagi for sure. He would like to have everything death ball up in one part. So again, this is definitely like not the best map for Grid because of this big division over here, and so that's why Days of Plague is having a chance to deal with this kind of CO. And these stealths are gonna come in and get some shots out, gonna take out our infantry, and he's gonna actually start that capture. So it is he should probably block this tile with something so that this infantry can't just get a shot there. I would probably not use a power to just interrupt this. You might as well just keep the power and use it to pressure this one, but he actually doesn't block that tile. I think it would be pretty interesting to have an artillery, like one of these, just put them here. I guess you would have to put the full HP one, or else you would be able to take it out with this one and then still send the infantry. So then you force a power to be used by this one, something like that. But wild, right? Wild map. Actually giving up this property, not saying the copter, just going all in. It even makes another stealth. We got the stealth chain. What is going on? What is this? And now actually Grid has the income lead. What is happening? Oh god. Grid getting the income lead is oof. And even it's gonna go for this city down here, which is out of range of any unit from Days of Plague. So Days of Plague is just all in. He's just like, I need to just join everything and have one massive, huge attack on this half of Grid's army, and win from there. Just completely conceding the side of the map, right? Like he's gonna lose this city, probably gonna lose this city as well. There isn't another infantry to go for this one next turn, but crazy. Imagine you're playing this and you're having to position everything. It looks like Izanagi gonna make a long vertical line over here of units, just all infantry. Yeah, look at that. That's some that's some advanced walls right there. I'm usually not a fan of these kind of walls because you can just go for a bunch of first strikes with like low value units, and say you send all your infantry and all your recons to attack all those infantry, and then your walls are going to slowly crumble. It's going to be like, sure, you can take out those units you sent in, but then your other vehicles will be able to boom attack next turn and just crush your force. So it is a wall that will hold for one turn, but it's definitely not a wall that will hold more than 2 or 3 turns. It really depends on the kind of units that you have, but you can see it's pretty thin. Like you have a 2-layer wall or maybe 3. It's like there's even a hole right there. I mean, sure, these tanks can't reach these anti-airs, but yeah, he's gonna go and attack a bunch of these infantry, even though there is this fighter. The fighter is in the one tile that these anti-airs don't reach. So that's pretty good. It's a part of the wall, a pretty good wall. And he's actually going to use an anti-air to take out one of the infantry. He's going to break through that one and probably gets a shot on that artillery. Oh, actually, this goes and kills that infantry. Kills the other infantry. And then goes attack that artillery. Okay. Interesting. I'm just going to bring everything. Going to get a first strike over there. And just accumulate all of those units up here at the top. Whew. And he's in the unit limit again, like he's at 50, so he only makes a single fighter. So absolutely conceding down here. What is going on? This is an all-in if I've ever seen one. Just I need to win here at the top. Gonna have all 50 units, the unit limit, all of them over there at the top. Izanagi is gonna have to respond right now. Gonna take out that injured stealth. Finally, gonna take out a bunch of these copters because he does have a nice accumulation of anti-airs. And then uses the super, actually. Doesn't use the power, uses the super. And so this is going to allow, look at that range from that rocket. Actually, this artillery will not reach anything. So you will have this artillery reach, this one, and then you have these two and this one. So not that many, but you can definitely get like 4, 6 kills. So there goes one down, boom, another. Boom, another, boom. Gonna try to take it. It doesn't. That one, artillery is gone, anti-air is gone, and that is it. Because this one doesn't reach, right? Yeah, it doesn't. And yeah, he's gonna be able to flip these properties as well. So that income advantage for grid is just gonna grow from now on. But Days of Plague does have that super loaded after all of these shots, and he's gonna have to make a missile bait, but because he's abandoned this area, he can definitely make a bait over here, I think. We'll have to see if this is good enough of a bait so that it doesn't land over here at the top. And I think this is a great idea. Like, go ahead and make a bait on your army that doesn't have another use right now. Like that southern army has no use. So he definitely had to put a lot of them in there to bait away from this big accumulation at the top. But there you go. He uses the super by Von Volt. Gonna plunge in, attack, take out the T-copter, which was a part of the wall. Okay, gets the kill there. Gonna just try to take out all of the infantry, and then start taking out the first anti-air and another anti-air, and then uses the 2 stealths probably. Yeah, 2 stealths to take out an anti-air, take out the injured copter, attack another one, take it out, and then uses the tank to hit that artillery. So that was nice. Was able to take out 3 artilleries and like the 3 anti-airs that were sent in. So yeah, that's the classic thing. You have so many copters, and they can only have so many anti-airs, right? Like maybe they'll have 5 or whatever, but you have like 10 copters. You send in 5, you get them all killed by anti-airs. But then you take out those 5 anti-airs, and then you still have 5 copters left that are just gonna wreak havoc, because there's no anti-airs left. And Izanagi actually gets this flip over here as well. He can probably get this one as well, unless this tank comes to interrupt. But that income difference is pretty crazy. I think it's kind of it's staying the same because Plague is being able to flip these cities. He was able to flip this one that had been locked down for so long, and now he'll probably be able to to flip this one. So it's gonna still be okay. He can't go for any of these. There's a bit too many indirects over here, but the forces by grid over here, in the main army from the 2 base, it is dwindling down. He can't even take out this tank with. Was that really Neo Tank and tank? That's crazy. That's crazy. Can't even take a Von Bolt tank with a super on a city with a Neo Tank and a tank because that grid firepower is so low. Doesn't even kill a copter with an anti-air. Oof. So I'm gonna try to attack these copters. Boom. Use the fighter. Needs a fighter and an anti-air to actually kill it. Gonna get a first strike there. And just brings more fighters. There isn't any more anti-airs though for Plague, so it's gonna be a bit tricky for him to deal with these fighters. There's a bit too many, but he can always use the stealth, right? Like first strike the stealth, and then first strike the fighters with your stealth, and then it'll be hard for Grid to deal with them. What is this match? I think this is still the strategy I play is this. I need to win over here at the top by joining all of the forces over here and trying to crush the main army by grid, try to flip everything, and then eventually you can go for these properties, maybe even go for HQ. But yeah, just absolutely sending a tank over here to attack this anti-air, which is now blocking the base. Wild. Medium tank gonna take out an anti-air, which is really nice. Gonna bully that Neo tank with some copters. Grid now has the super locked and loaded, and those copters keep coming. Now this army over here, because it was stunned and it didn't have a job, because again your one base army will never join the other way, it will only do stuff over here. And so now Plague is going for these 2 middle cities as well as he flipped that one. So now it's Von Bolt again has the income lead, does have the unit count and unit value advantage. Just this fight was definitely very advantageous for Plague. So a really good job there. You're gonna see as Izanagi actually flips this one because it wasn't interrupted. So he's just gonna set up over here. He uses a power. This is probably as far as Izanagi would want to go over here. Just use this this somewhat choke point between these mountains and prevent any of this to try to attack. But Plague doesn't really care. He's just full sending upwards. And so he uses the power. He's gonna get some shots out. Gonna deal with that medium tank. I'm gonna take out the fighter, the copter, that medium tank. Kills that copter, and okay, he's gonna interrupt that city capture, but the one in the middle is going to go through. And again, Von Bolt has that super ready, and this is so painful for Grid, right? Boom, it's gonna land there. Oh wow, I think it's definitely Von Bolt is a tricky matchup for Grid for sure. I would think that also Hawk is a tricky matchup because of that global damage being so strong. But maybe his best matchup is someone like Sasha. I don't know. It's probably tricky. It's just this map is not very ideal for Grid in my opinion. But I think Izanagi was doing a really great job. But then Plague was you know what? I need to just full send on one side and just crush that. Use the sure we'll accumulate, but then I'll have charge. Use those supers, and so one army will be neutralized, and I can just full slam on to the other part of the army and then just try to win that way, because it is looking really good for Plague. I'm not even gonna lie, this unit count by Izanagi is just absolutely shredded. You just don't have enough units to deal with these. There's just way too many, and by the time that you can deal with this, you're gonna have lost all your properties. He's gonna use another power. He's definitely taking out quite a few units every turn. Now all the stealths are injured. That fighter is in range of this anti-air, so it'll probably go down, and he doesn't have another fighter. He doesn't have the income or the funds to make another fighter. Well, he could have, but he spent it on a tank. But he'd have to triple base keep, and you don't want to be triple base keeping when you have these infantry in range of his base. There's just so much pressure right now. He has to build over here. He doesn't want to lose this. He could lose a bit. When was the last time you saw a match on this map where this base was being threatened? It is wild. So Plague is gonna keep on attacking. All this army is pretty disconnected now because the attack is all the way back into these mountains. Even has to put this Neon Tank on the HQ. Not really. There isn't really a full HP infantry in range of that HQ just now, but very soon it could be. Right now you have this one. It could just skip this and go for HQ. If this is dealt with, just keeps blocking this base away from attacking over here. Even gets to flip the C, which is absolutely ridiculous. This one, like, it's 3 tiles away from this base. He's even gonna block over here with a 1 HP stealth because there's no fire to deal with it. So just gonna sit there. It's not really doing that much, but it's blocking this nice silo tile with high defense. Just keep sending copters. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes another copter. Yeah, there you go. And then just makes double recon tank, just like gonna be spamming those vehicles. This army is the classic. You just send it this way, keep this there, just make sure they don't come out or do anything, and then instead of attacking, you just keep sending it there. That's just your classic thing. Missiles gonna move up. This poor army got shot by the missiles twice too, so it's pretty injured. It can't do much. And Zanagi's gonna try his best to push out of here, but it's just, this army is so destroyed. I mean, as I say that, the unit value is looking not that bad, which is pretty crazy. That overextension might be running out of steam or running out of fuel, running out of gas, as he does have this Neo tank, this medium tank that can deal with some of the light vehicles from Plague without getting dealt with by any other medium tank or any stealths by Plague. But Plague is just going to keep on attacking. He's probably not going to deal with his Neo tank just yet. He's going to take out that anti-air. Going to keep attacking, keep putting that pressure, blocking tiles, and look, ooh, now this base is actually blocked. He will be able to take it out, and he's going to start capturing that base. What is happening? What? There's no way for Zanagi to interrupt this. The only thing that he could do, well, actually, yeah, he can. He has this artillery pointing at it. That was probably intentional. He also used a power and shoot with this one. But this is wild. Like, these two units are so strong right now. They're blocking. There's no fire to deal with it. So the only way that Izanagi can stop this from going through, from flipping, is by having to use an artillery. And he would love to use artillery to shoot at the vehicles, which are putting so much pressure, right? So this is just crazy stuff here by Plague. And actually, I didn't realize, okay, he was able to kill it with this rocket as well. I wonder if he'll build something like a tank or something. The thing is that nothing will withstand here, because, I don't know, infantry will die to 2 infantry. You have these copters as well. So a tank, for example, will die guaranteed by these 2 copters, and then you can start capping. Maybe an anti-air, but then you do have this tank over here. So, and he only has 15k, right? So he can't make a medium tank, for example. And do you really want to spend that many funds? It's like you need to make units here that can do stuff, because this is just a very dire position. There's a lot of healthy infantry ready to start capping. You have so many injured ones. This army is desperately trying to go and help out, just like hugging the mountains so they don't get like attacked by these units. Even as it's artillery kind of like covering the anti-airs. It's just like, they really want to go and help. But I mean, if I'm playing, I would just send this tank, kill this anti-air, and then keep attacking, not let this help out in any shape or form. 2 copters are going to take out that recon. He doesn't have an infantry to go there, because he had to pull both of them to attack with the copters. Oof. Yeah, and sends 2 tanks to take out 2 of the anti-airs, and even uses the recon to shoot at this infantry. It's like, I don't even care. I'm just going to shoot at all your infantry. I don't care that they're protected. You only have 1 artillery. Sure, this one with a power, but you also have to shoot at this. Just overwhelming. Just bringing down. He's really brought down the unit count and the unit value of this game so low now to 100k, 20, 30 units. And it's to that point that now it makes it really tricky for Grid. Before it was like he had 50, he was able to shoot at many things, put pressure with a power, whatever. And now he's like, he has like 2 healthy artillery here, 2 healthy one here, and there's like a million units that need to get shot at. There's just too many, and Izanagi decides to tap out. Wow, what a game! What a game! Insane. Let's look at the stats. It doesn't show me the stats. Okay, that's kind of sad, because because the replay was like a month or 2 old. But wow, that game was crazy. Grid was not able to win here. It was That was a crazy match. It was looking pretty good for Plague at first, and then Izanagi was able to really just hone down that position, solidify, just solidify on all fronts. Really, Plague was doing such a great job of putting pressure on multiple places all the time, forcing Grid into awkward positions. But at a certain point, Izanagi was able to be like, no, actually, I'm gonna lock down everything. I'm gonna free up my airport. I'm gonna have a solid position over here. But it was after that missiles, the overinvestment from the one base, that Plague was like, actually, I'm just gonna, you know what? You can do whatever you want on your one base. I'm just actually gonna send my 100% of my army, send it all over to the top, join my two base with my one base and the airport, spam those stealth fighters, and just absolutely slam into your force. And just keep those superpowers coming, right? Like kept those the super just every like 2 or 3 turns, boom, boom, boom. And so then, yeah, sure, you could you could bait it on your one base, but then your one base is not gonna be doing anything. So just absolutely insane plays by Plague. I think the strategy there at the end of just doing that full on over here at the top was the game winning move. I'm not sure what Izanagi could have done differently to change that outcome. Maybe have some more heavy tanks earlier. Like after that missiles, just start making medium tanks, for example, so you can have a more solid wall. That like super vertical line of infantry is something that I know it's a meme and stuff like that. I just don't think that it's actually worth. You end up in that position where the other one just full send stuff. Your wall gets like super, it gets cracked, and then next turn you can't really replenish the wall, and boom, they just send everything and just wreck you. And over multiple turns in a brawl, you're just gonna lose. It's just really hard to sustain a wall like that. So I'm not sure how Izanagi could have gone about that differently. Maybe I don't know. Maybe with a few heavy tanks, just like 2 or 3 medium tanks, then you can have a more vertical line. But maybe just ball up more. I don't know. But an absolutely wild game. Thank you to the players for actually doing this test game. I found it just randomly, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a long match, 33 turns, I think. But yeah, pretty good. And spoiler alert if you haven't watched the other one. I mean, go watch the other one, the Grid versus Colin game. But it's crazy that Grid was playing against a tier 0 CO, which is Colin, and something happened. I'm not gonna say the result, whatever. If you want to go watch it. But now he's played against a tier 1 CO and actually got beaten by a tier 1 CO. Again, this is not really a proof that like, oh, Grid is like actually should be in tier 2 or something like that. It's just, there's also just one match. You would actually need more matches to prove that kind of a point. There's definitely a map where Grid is not very good at, and so you can definitely see Von Bolt having those chances to kind of play around and have those dynamics. So I thought it was pretty interesting. In other maps, maybe more smaller maps, lower income, 3 base that are not this disconnected, would definitely be better for Grid. Say if like these mountains were here, you can just ball up everything, and then you can't really front switch because Grid is just gonna have this huge ball of like artillery and rockets, and like you just can't do anything. So yeah. I hope you guys like this video. I don't want to say that Grid is actually bad and that should be, I don't know, a tier 1 CO or tier 2 CO. Again, it would need more testing. I think one of the main reasons why he's not really allowed in standard is because, from what I've heard, Grid mirrors are a pain. I have seen them, and that's one of the main arguments of not having him. It's just, imagine Grid mirrors, it's just nothing happens. So that's really a big pain. If there was some world where you can pick Grid and the other one doesn't, something like that, maybe it could work, but I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyways, really fun to see. I love to see these experiments being done at the very high level as well, right? Like really pushing the boundaries of these COs and trying to prove a point or not. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.